Welcome to Between Both Cheeks, the podcast where we talk business, beauty, and butts. We'll be stripping down the aesthetics industry, whether you're here for spicy beauty tips, savvy business advice, or just a little banter. We've got you covered from front to back. So pull up a cheek and get ready to discover what happens between both cheeks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Between Both Cheeks. I have a very special guest, my celebrity guest. I've got Marley Jaxx on today. And for those of you that are living under a rock, Marley, give them a little snippet on what you do and who you are.
I'm just a little entrepreneur. I have a YouTube channel and I teach people how to grow their businesses on YouTube. In the last few years, the channel's grown quite a bit. We just reached, I think we're at 160,000. And it's so fun to be able to create content and connect with people, including you. That's what I do is I create content on the internet and teach people how to grow their businesses doing the same.
I'm not just a small content creator, 190,000 subscribers. That's huge.
It's grown a lot over the years. I'm really grateful for it.
Lots of hard work.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that I got to have you on in our crazy different time zones right now. So thanks for getting up early.
What time is it for you there?
10:30 at night, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we definitely wouldn't have been able to connect at
I know. It's
hour.
really crazy. I don't know how people do it. Like, it's really crazy. So
Yeah,
so
wow.
I just wanted to talk about, obviously, the business that you're in is social media, content creation, all of that, how we connected, what you've kind of been through, and especially as an entrepreneur, because that is mostly our listeners that listen out there. So let's dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was even saying to you before we hit record, the way that we met means so much to me. And I guess we'll turn back the clock and tell the story a little bit. At the end of 2021, got a shocking surprise diagnosis. I mean, I think everyone's diagnosis like that would come as a shock. I did not see that coming. I was 31 years old and got a call that you have cervical cancer and we need to have a hysterectomy right away, and then we'll figure out the treatment path after that. But this is a ticking time bomb and you got to move fast. And I was just shocked, completely knocked over. And a few weeks after the diagnosis, when I'd kind of found my footing a little bit, I made a post online and shared that I was diagnosed. And I don't know how, but you found it. And you reached out to me, and I even have the message in front of me, and you just you acknowledged my words in the post, and you were so kind. You offered to send me a gift package of your creams, and you also just really encouraged me in the mindset, which, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you're always thinking about mindset. But with this, I had no idea what was authentic, what the ground or the floor looked like. And so to have that from you, it's wow, the power of social media, to receive a message and also a gift from someone who's been there. It just meant so much to me. So because I teach social media, I talk about, you never know who's out there who needs your message, but then you also never know who's out there that's going to be there for you when you need it. That one surprised me, because I've always been the other way. You have to serve people, and then here you, a complete stranger, reached out to me.
But it's because you've been serving people that karma came back in that way. And something that I always look at is, I always say, in my speaking engagements, it's everyone wants to be an entrepreneur until they realize that it's the loneliest place in the world. There's really no one to talk to. I don't know. I don't care if you've got a partner, a spouse, employees, you can't, no one fully gets it. It really is a lonely place. So when I saw what you went through, or were about to go through, it just kind of put me back in my situation, right? So mine was 2020.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell anyone that I was sick. And it was a super lonely time to try to navigate it on my own. So I just wanted to.
Why didn't you tell people?
Let's get really super honest. I thought I was going to die. Yeah. I thought I was going to die, and I didn't want people reaching out being like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What can I say? What can I do? I didn't want all the people feeling bad for me. I was like, if I'm going to go out, like, I'm just going to go out without telling anyone. Yeah. My diagnosis was bad.
I know it's, and you're here and you overcame it. So amazing. I know what you mean by the I'm so sorry and oh, what can I do for you? And I felt that for the first time in a way that shocked me when I went through a divorce in 2019, 2020. So it's fun. I kind of had these like two very life-changing, groundbreaking things back to back. It's like I just got back from the divorce and then, cancer diagnosis. Whoa. But the first time that I went into the public, I had a speaking engagement, and it was a really big one, like 5,000 people in a community that I'm, very familiar with and have been in for a long time. So being on this stage meant so much to me, but also it was like this pinnacle career moment after I just announced my divorce. And when people came up to me like, oh, I'm so sorry, honey, I was like, oh God, what is this? And it was like brushing off this feeling that I know that they mean well, but I'm like, I had to really acknowledge and be conscious of not succumbing 100%. To that energy. And instead I had to face it, overcome it with even more power to be like, I'm so good. How are you? And just to turn it into a story of perseverance and not accept the well-meaning pity.
I couldn't agree more. I dealt with it today. So someone said to me today about, they're like, do you have a husband? And I was like, no, I left my fiance, I think 6 or 7 months ago. And they came back with, I'm so sorry. And I just stopped them in their tracks and I say, don't be. It's one of the best decisions I've made of my life. Same thing with the whole cancer. We're like, oh my God, you were diagnosed. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Cancer is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. That's what I respond with.
Yes.
And no one gets that line unless they've been through it. Because when you hear that and you've never had cancer, you think the person is completely fucked up. Like, how can you say that, right?
I remember the first time someone said congratulations to me for my divorce. I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is, you must have been through one yourself or something to say. And I was like, I love that you said that. I don't know if everyone would accept a congratulations depending on where they're at. Some people do need to like sit through the rain to see the rainbow kind of thing. But I think that with the right mindset, you do come out on the other side with this is no matter how you feel, I'm going to make this the best thing that ever happened to me. Like if I get hit with a hardship, I know that I am just the way that I am. I'm going to find the reason for this and the meaning for this to make it worth something. Even if it's the hardest thing, even if it's I come out with a lesson or I come out with, helping someone else. My divorce, my cancer, I wouldn't trade it.
I think that the biggest thing is, and I think this shows you as an entrepreneur, is it's not being a victim. It's being able to take a lesson from it or be someone's survival guide from it and help them through something.
The path that you just walked becomes the guide for someone else. And you reached out to me and then I started following you and seeing like you on the other side of yours. I went on YouTube and started looking for people with the same stories as me. And it was because of the people that were strangers, but they were brave enough to put their stories on the internet where I could just find that it changed how I showed up to it. Because sometimes like you are, how they say like you are what you eat, you are what you consume in terms 100%. Of information too. And so if I'm just listening to, again, well-meaning people who are like, oh, this is so scary and oh, you have to do this really fast and oh, you could die if you do, what is my brain going to be consuming? Like, instead go to the people that are the positive, that is what I want my future self to be aligned with.
And everyone's got advice. Everyone that has ever been through cancer has all of the advice to give you. But I agree. I found, I didn't come out on social or anything until I got word from my doctor that it's gone. That's when I decided to post about it. But
that's a long time to go through it alone.
Yeah.
How did people react to you after they found out that they were in the dark and you were going through this alone? I'm sure there was
it was wild. There were a lot of people that were angry. In turn, made me angry at them. I get where you're coming from, that you wanted to be there for me through it, or that's at least what they said. but also like, I just went through like 8 or 9 months of absolute hell, and you want to make it about yourself in this moment. Like, you're angry
Interesting.
with me for not telling you. I just called you to let you know or posted it on social, and you want to be angry with me from withholding that. This is my story to tell. And I'll tell it when I'm
Yeah.
ready, and I'll tell it to who I choose to. And when I look at those people that were angry, they've just kind of like fallen out of my life. Or even after I told them, there was no like follow up or concern. Like, now that I'm, cancer free, I guess it's just done. So how were you going to show up for me while I was going through it if you didn't show up for what life is like after cancer? Because it doesn't just stop, people. Like, there's a whole, it stays with you forever.
Yeah. You don't just shake that off.
No. So that was my experience. I think that cancer was a huge blessing in my life. And I think it showed a lot of people that no longer deserve a seat at my table. I don't know if that was the same for you.
I definitely learned a lot about how friends are, and also how to be a friend in a time of grief or a time of need. And from my experience, what I learned is if I have a friend that is going through something, the best thing that I can do is ask, what kind of friend do you need right now? Because not everyone is the same, like you. Like, you're like, I don't want to talk about, I just want to kind of be alone maybe. And for me, I'm like, come over, bring me food, let's talk, or just be with me and don't talk. I want to be surrounded, but I also don't want the pressure of having to talk. I just want to know that they're there. And I have a friend of mine that she's like, oh yeah, come over, but don't talk to me. I don't want to talk about it at all. I'm like, wow, that's, so I can see that, but I'm also a very verbal processor. And so I've just learned the best question to ask is, how can I be a friend for you right now? What kind of friend do you need? And then be unattached to their wishes, because it's their wishes. But as a friend, if I can give in whatever way, the giving is also a gift, which I can kind of see the anger. However, to not continue the friendship after that is like, well, like you said, how would you have been there for me then if you can't be there for me now? I also understand that wanting to give and being suppressed of that is like denying the opportunity to be there, and it is a gift to be able to serve. I see both sides, but I also see it's my life, it's my story. I get to choose how I want to live it.
What was your biggest takeaway that cancer taught you?
So many. When I first was diagnosed, I was definitely in fear, and that was the information I was consuming to put me into an environment of fear because of the voices that I was listening to that were also coming from a place of fear and scarcity and urgency. That is an awful place to make decisions from. It's great for marketing and sales, but it's not good for your health and your life. And one of the first calls that I had was with a friend. He has a book called Chris Beat Cancer. His name is Chris Wark. So it's his story of how he beat cancer. And I mean, he's helped and coached so many people to get through their cancer experience. And one of the first things he just said to me was like, you have time, just breathe. And the treatment path, the healing path is the same, no matter what your diagnosis is, no matter where in the body it's located, no matter, what stage it's at, healing is the same. You have to get your body into an environment of healing, because your body created an environment for cancer. It can just the same create an environment for healing. But what we've learned so much from mainstream media and doctors and these health facilities, which of course are well-meaning, it's like you have to do chemo and radiation and surgeries and all these things. And that is an option. Absolutely. But there are also other options too. And so it just, for me, I did a lot of natural healing. I did not end up ever having the hysterectomy or the surgery. I worked with functional medicine doctors. I worked with naturopaths. I did a lot of overdosing on nutrition, like the juicing and stuff that I would have looked at before and been like, whoa, that doesn't work. That's woo. You have to listen to the medicine. Well, I still was listening to the medicine, just a different modality of medicine. So I learned so much about the body's natural ability to heal when you give it the right healing environment. One of the phrases that a doctor said to me was, how does a hurricane form? Under the perfect conditions. How does a hurricane disappear? Under the perfect conditions. your body is creating an environment for cancer. That means that there's something in the environment that is causing this cancer to be created. How do we then change the tides so that we create an environment for healing? So is that nutrition? Is that detoxing? What is currently happening in your body that we need to heal? For me, when we did all the testing with functional medicine and naturopaths instead of the conventional doctor that diagnosed me, we looked at the fact that I was on birth control for 16 years. You think that would contribute? Yeah, but my doctor that diagnosed me never even asked that. We looked at my full body blood work and toxins, and I had a lot of heavy metals built up. What the heck? From what? Our drinking water, the plastic that we're using and consuming, the hormones in our food. Like, I had no idea, and I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for this diagnosis that then brought me to this deep rabbit hole that I'm still learning so much. And now, because of what I've learned and because of what I continue to learn, because I just am now so fascinated with this. I mean, what could be more important than learning about your body and how to keep it healthy? I feel so empowered that even if my numbers go up again, or if a family member or someone close to me gets a diagnosis, I'm like, I know where to find the information that's going to keep me empowered, even if it's another shock or another, surprise diagnosis. I feel like I have the tools to keep me empowered instead of in fear.
Wow. That's a lot. And how long did you have to go through all of your stuff?
So I was diagnosed in December 2021. And by July 2022, the doctor that diagnosed me, when we did retests and stuff, came back no evidence. So it was 7-ish months. But I've always still worked with my functional medicine doctor, who they don't exchange information. Conventional doesn't really believe in the functional stuff, and I've showed her these blood tests and been like, what about this? And she hasn't really looked at it. So I trust the functional medicine more. I'm still continuously working with the functional medicine doctor, and my numbers in my blood tests, even though the conventional medicine says no evidence, it's funny, they say no evidence, but they still are really pushing the hysterectomy preventatively, which feels like if you just take out body parts, it's like you're painting over a water leak. Like, we don't know what the cause of it is. If we just take this out, but not actually look at what's causing this, then it could just pop up in another form. So I still work with a functional medicine doctor, and I'm still doing retests every 90 days. And my cancer markers are just they're fluctuating in the yellow. If we look at a traffic light, it's in the yellow, and I haven't yet gotten to the green, but we're continuously working on it. And the way that my doctors described it is where the cancer markers are at are it's the last 5 pounds. We've come down a long way. And now we're in a place where we're maintaining, and we're still trying to get it into that green. When we get into a green, it's going to be a big celebration.
Yes. Celebrate everything. Eat the cake. Yeah. It's one of my pillars for my company. Celebrate absolutely everything. Okay. So we went through, hold on. You go through divorce first or cancer first? Divorce. So walk me through that and what that was like, again, as an entrepreneur going through a major life change.
Yeah. Just dang, we signed up for this. Entrepreneurs are really signed up for a lifestyle of consistent transition. There is no just smooth sailing. And if it was, I think it would feel boring to us.
Yeah.
Because I was a dental hygienist before I started business, and it was mundane. I wanted the adventure of creation. But that kind of leads into when I got married to my first husband, I was a dental hygienist. And I mean, that kind of lifestyle was you go to work, you work your 9 to 5, you come home, you make dinner, you spend time with family, and kind of do the same thing every day. And I knew that wasn't what I was cut out for, but it chose dental hygiene for a while because it was it's stable, and I'll figure out what I really want to be when I grow up. And then I fell into business. As a dental hygienist, I started doing social media for the dental office, and I just did it for fun. And then it turned into, oh, could you do this for my friend here? And then, oh, what can I refer you here? And then very quickly, overnight, through referrals, I had a business. And I was like, mate. So I started to leave the dental office more and more and started to work more. And I loved what I was creating. And it's so fun to be I did this for fun, and now I get paid for it. What could be better? But that wasn't the lifestyle that my husband signed up for. He wanted something completely different. And I was a lot when I was traveling for events and meeting people and going to masterminds. It just wasn't what he signed up for. And I think it was threatening to him.
Isn't that funny
And
how that happens with partners?
yeah. And for someone different, it could be really inspiring and motivating, and we could be on the same field together. And that's who I'm with now. Like my boyfriend now is also an entrepreneur, and I didn't know love like this could exist. But damn, when I was going through my divorce, it was like tragic, and I can't believe this is happening to me, and I'll never be loved again. And if only I could like just whisper in that girl's ear and say, just leave, sister. Like everything that you're holding on to, when you let go of that, you have no idea what's on the other side for you. But I had to go through that pain to be able to get through the therapy and go through the pain to heal and be ready and available and open to what's on the other side. Because it also wasn't just like went through a divorce and then, found this
100%.
amazing man. I thought it was going to be. I totally thought it was going to be. And I even had this thought, and I kind of laugh at it now, that I was like, I really believed I've already done the hard thing by going through the divorce. Now I can have any man I want, and it'll be just smooth sailing from here. My next guy, who like I can just pick anyone I want because I've already overcome the most impossible thing I could imagine. Well, sure enough, my first guy that I dated after my divorce was very emotionally unavailable. And it brought me to just a peak, a pinnacle of pain, of recognizing all of my patterns throughout my entire life of attracting emotionally unavailable men. And not just, it was also my friendships or my bosses, but I wouldn't have known this if I didn't go through the divorce and I didn't go through this, I'm invincible, I can date everyone I want, and then get smacked down from that. And I was in so much pain that it brought me to therapy. I thought therapy was like for if you're broken.
Right.
Like, well, actually, we are all a little bit broken. Isn't that a blessing that we get to learn that? And we're continuously growing and putting ourselves together in new ways. And then the therapy brought me to realize, like, wow, I've constantly dated narcissists, manipulators, cheaters, abusers. Wait a minute, I'm the common denominator. And then here, Steven, who is, oh my God, the love of my life. When he started pursuing me, I was like, oh no, you're not my type.
Wow.
Because that was too easy. It was too easy.
Oh, wow.
And then it was a lot of therapy. And I love psychedelic therapy. It was a 1-dose, 1-day psychedelic therapy that I went through that it was a huge epiphany. And I came back from that looking at Steven like, this is healthy. This is real love. This is what I really want, but didn't know that I deserved. Again, I'm the common denominator, all of this. And that changed my life. It changed how I show up in relationships. It changed what I see that matters. Because I think before I was looking for a lot of external validation from my business, from my relationships, from money, from clients. And when Steven came along, and it was like, he was so generous and loving and a provider. It was like, oh no, I have this programming, this belief that it has to be hard for me to feel like I earned it and that I'm worthy. And if it's too easy, it's like, well, that's not real.
Do you think that's an upbringing thing? Because I'm very similar with that. Like, it has to be, if it's not hard, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I think it brings me back to as a kid, it's like, you're not allowed to play until you finish your chores. You're not allowed to have dessert until you eat your dinner. And of course, like personal responsibility. Yes, that's so important. But it was so ingrained in me that it has to be hard for it to be worthy. And then I see how that was in every aspect of my life.
That's so interesting that you bring that up, because that's something that I've been reflecting on. It's like, I have to be able to fix him. He'll change eventually if we do enough therapy. I'll just hold on to this employee for this much longer, and I'm sure that they'll change. Or they said that they're going to do this, and eventually they will, even though the actions aren't making, it's just really hard right now. But in the end, it'll be better. It's such a mindset for me that I'm trying to break, because when we really, if I look at my company now, right, specifically, it hasn't been easy. I'm not going to say it's been easy, but the way that things have flowed and have alignment has been way easier than other companies that I've had. And there's something to be said for that. And there's times where I catch myself like, that it just doesn't seem right. No, it is completely right. You are in the flow of things. You're aligning with things. You're allowing things to happen naturally and not looking for that fight, if you will, that hardship to get over, to make it worth that at the end. Like, what is this?
And then you attract more of that because that's just what you believe. Like, you receive what you believe. So you look for things that are going to be hard, or you create chaos because that's actually safe to you. Like, sometimes I'm thinking of this like analogy of, imagine being in a rushing river, and like, that's what you're used to. You're used to the flow and the crash on the rocks. And if the water was still, it's like you're waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, then you can see more of the stuff if the water is still. And a lot of times we create this chaos so that we don't have to see clearly. We don't have to think, or we don't have to, I also realized for myself when I was going through therapy for the first time after my divorce, was I was never in silence. Like, I couldn't even sit quiet alone in a room. There had to be music playing, or a podcast, or I had to be talking to someone, because what happens when you're alone with your thoughts?
Scary.
It can be terrifying for someone until you're forced into a position to see them, like maybe a divorce, like maybe cancer.
I always say that, like, I'm not religious, but like, I'm spiritual. Like, I like to take a little bit of like different parts of religion that suits me, if you will, right? So like, very in line with like Buddhism, but grew up Catholic and still like old school, still talk to my priest that gave me my first communion type thing. Like, very kind of all over pieced together. Being religious, not spiritual, and finding that time to sit with yourself, the part that's scary. I realized after a separation, after cancer, and after selling my last business, I was in constant anxiety, and that was normal. And to be able to have a breath and feel this sense of calmness felt abnormal. It's the craziest thing to say to someone. I don't know if you went through something similar in that sense. Calmness, like to not have a thought, for example, while like having a massage, and not like sitting there for 90 minutes or half an hour or 60 minutes, however long it is, and go through my to-do list on what needs to be done. Like, I had zero calm, zero. It was always fight or flight. I would be at a restaurant and I would have to leave because I was like overwhelmed with anxiety, because there was tons of sounds going on in the restaurant. What's going on in my head is absolutely, like, I would have to leave. And that was my entire life that I lived up until recently. And to think that that's normal.
Because it's all you ever known. It reminds me of the kid. Have you ever seen that meme of the kid that's like in the water and he's holding onto the rope and he's like, oh, and he's just freaking out, and his mom comes up and stands him up like he's in the shallow end. He's just been freaking out the whole time. And it's like, that was an illusion. I thought that I was being pulled away by the undertow, but actually I could just stand up and be safe. But it's all I've ever known. That's how I know how to react, because it's how I've always done it.
It's mind-blowing. But at the same time, a successful entrepreneur sometimes come from a place of this.
Because we're kind of built for the perseverance and the hustle when we need it. But I think there's that, there's the line between, okay, I've got this chip on my shoulder and it's a motivation, and then turning that into, how do I not be fueled by pain and wake up 30 years later and be like, wow, what did I do this all for?
Yeah.
Still finding that. There's so many layers to it. I've changed so much about how, like, if I look back at how I used to be versus how I am now, and I'm sure that 3 years from now, I'll be saying the same thing about how I am now. It's never going to be perfect, but like this year, for the first time, I'm putting vacations on the calendar first.
Right? The opposite way.
Business stuff on. Yeah. I was like, I'll book my vacations around the business travel because, well, I have to provide and make business first. Actually, am I building a life or am I building a business? I want to build a life that is fueled by a business, but not a life that is completely run and controlled by my business.
And you're able to do that as well, pretty well. So this is the first year that you've done that. How does it feel?
Yeah. Exciting. But also, like, if there's a whole year, what if I put something here and, well, then something comes up? First of all, I can choose to reschedule it if I need to. if something comes up that I decide it's not that was the hardest thing. I was like, but what if you don't go on vacation and another year passes and you're like, what did I do this year for? We get a choice. But yeah, there was definitely, it was like so exciting, but then also okay, but actually do it. Don't make it non-negotiable the way that, we talk about putting the gym on the calendar or having lunch with a friend, like schedule it non-negotiable because it matters to you.
Yeah.
You will do it.
Listen, I booked this trip 5-6 months ago. I booked it exactly a month after I separated. And I did not book my hotel till 3 days before I left. And I packed the day of my trip.
Wow.
Totally not like me. Like, don't know who I am. Don't know where the old Luba is. Like, this whole trip would have been planned to the hour, the day, like I have no hotel tomorrow.
What an adventure.
It's time to do something different because the way that I've been doing things, sure, they've definitely worked for the business, but it hasn't served me personally.
And part of that void you're creating is where the magic comes. If you're so scheduled to back there, where is the opportunity for the little miracles or the little surprises to
totally. So I'm going to throw you off track now because I want to talk about what you do for entrepreneurs. Because like I said, that is the majority of our audience. What is happening with social media today with AI, all these different platforms? Where should people be posted? Like, what do you do? Like, if someone comes to you, like, how do you even navigate them through this?
Yeah. I love when people come to me like, those exact same questions. I don't know where to post. I don't know what to say. Something that I know I need to do, but I don't want to. I'm like, give me 30 days. I'm going to change your life. Used to feel that way. And I hear so many people say that it's like a chore. What? We don't want to do chores. That sounds so awful. I just want to make money. Well, we kind of have to build a brand and build an audience and do these things. It's like one of the most important things you can do. And I think we also have a little bit of, I'm facing or battling this like instant gratification mindset where if you get your ads right, you can put in $1 in and get 3 out or whatever. But ads last and ads are fast, content lasts. And so we need to build a brand. My superpower is turning content from a chore and into a game. And so I've actually called our programs the content game. And people will say that like, I got to build up my content. Like I built the program. This is the game that you play. And I have strategies where it's like, here's the revenue routine. Like if all you do are these 5 simple things, kind of like a 75 hard but fun, like here's just 5 things to do every single day. That if you do them consistently, it will grow your audience, it will generate leads, and it will drive towards sales. And then using AI, that's what makes it fun. Because I think what people get hung up in, or what makes it feel like a chore, is if they have to sit there and bang their head against the wall thinking about what to create. Well, instead, I have this whole library of AI prompts, of AI voices, so that you can put it in your own, not actual physical voice, but like, what's the voice, what's the tone, the style of how you write your scripts or write your copy. And I just, for me, because of what we kind of talked about earlier, growing up with the, you get to play after you do your chores, you get to eat dessert after you eat your meal. I want to make everything in my life fun and play. And so that's what I've created, that for all my clients, I'm going to turn your content into something that feels fun. And the first time I had a client be like, because most of the time people say, I want to outsource my content, but it's your voice. You can't outsource yes, to some point. Like, yes, you can hire videographers and video editors and copywriters and things, but it still needs to be you. And I had a client that was like, I want to outsource the other things so that I can just play with my content all day. And that's my favorite thing. That's my favorite thing to hear. And so ChatGPT or Claude or any of these AI tools can totally become your best friend. You just need to know how to use it right. And I have a whole bunch of stuff on my YouTube channel that teaches how to do it. So for anyone listening to this, would go check out my YouTube channel. I can totally help you.
And what is your YouTube channel so people can find you?
Just look up my name, Marley Jaxx. Jaxx is the last name.
Amazing. And is there a package for maybe a new entrepreneur or anything like that? Or can they just find everything on your website?
Yeah, totally check out the website. We have things from anywhere from like $97 a month to working with people in a done for you service that is, 10,000 plus a month, depending on what people need. Like if they want us to do all of their social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, depending on what they need, we can do it all. We can also consult people to tell them what to do, a done with you kind of offer. But depending on the business and the price point, we really have something for every level.
Perfect. So if you guys are struggling, you know where to go. Contact Marley. She'll walk you through it. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, so look her up. She can be your right hand here. And then you have a podcast. Talk to me about this podcast.
Yeah. We just launched it a month ago. We just launched 9th episode today, which I heard this thing that a lot of podcasts don't make it past episode 7. Like there's just a graveyard of podcasts out there. And if you make it past 7 episodes, you're in the top 5% just because of your staying power.
Wow.
So we just hit 9 episodes, and I guess that means we're in the top 5%. Well, you too, because you've been doing this podcast for a long time. So you got to be in the top whatever percent. It's amazing. But yeah, it's called Rare Things. It's me and Steven that we host it together. It was cool that we came together on a podcast because we both have our individual businesses and our individual brands. Steven has a brand called The Capitalist Pig, and he teaches people how to get rich and give back, like how to make money online. And a lot of times people can be triggered by the word capitalism, but it's really about improving the economic and spiritual well-being of mankind, and that money is a tool to be able to do that we can do good with. Of course, if you are a crappy person, you might do crappy things with money, but that's not who we want to serve here.
I think someone said, like, give someone money and you'll truly see who they are as a person. Like, money doesn't make you a good person or a bad person. It just shows people who you actually are.
Yeah, absolutely. We started this podcast together because at events or masterminds, like we both have our individual businesses, but then we would get questions about like, how do you operate as a couple in business? And, entrepreneurial couples, there's so much curiosity around it. So we started this podcast and we called it Rare Things because one of the words that we just use a lot is like, we want to live a rare life. I mean, entrepreneurs already, like, what that feels like, to feel like what you do, how you think, how you operate, your day to day is rare. And rare perspectives create extraordinary lives. So that's the podcast. We talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about relationships, we talk about health and sex and medicine and parenting. And today the episode was about attachment styles, which like totally broke my brain. Like, incredible how you show up to relationships based on your attachment style that's formed before you're 3 years old. Like, before you even have memories, this attachment style is programmed into you and completely can make or break your relationships if you're aware of it. So some really cool episodes. And I learned so much from the podcast, and it's just so fun doing it with Steven.
I love the little clips. I love the name of it. I wish you all the best on it. It's going to do so, so well. What's coming for you in 2025?
Vacations.
And where are you going? Have you decided where you're going?
So actually for Christmas, we're going to go to a cabin in the mountains. We've never done that before. So we're going to do that. And then next year, my dream is to go to those like huts on the water.
Yeah. Like Bora Bora.
Yes. Yeah. But we found one that I loved that's in Jamaica. So it's a little bit closer. But it's like a 9-hour flight instead of a 20-hour flight. So I might do that one. And I love going to LA and doing the movie tours, like the movie studio tours. So probably a little bit of that too.
Let me know when you're in LA. We might meet up.
Ooh, yes, I would love that.
Perfect. Just before we wrap up here, because I know I'm taking up tons of your time and I knew we would go over our time, can you just tell everyone where they can find you on all platforms?
Absolutely. Yeah, look up on all platforms, Marley Jaxx, MarleyJaxx. It's double X's. My YouTube channel has a ton of free trainings and content on there. My Instagram, if you DM me, I am the only person that responds in my DMs, so you'll get me. So many people are like, is this really Marley? Yes, it's me. So I'm always reachable on there as well.
Thank you so much for being my guest today. Thanks for getting up early. Yeah, so much fun. All right, guys, tune in next week for another guest episode. Thank you for joining us.